your boy, Mike Babcock. Yes, the reports sound to be true. And it's just unbelievable to me. It's so Mike Babcock that this story comes out on day one, game one of the Stanley Cup final. And the reports intimating that Mike Babcock is primed for return to the NHL to be the head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets. But the best part of this story that it doesn't sound like it's going to become official until sometime after his contract with the Leafs expires on June 30th. I'm going to side with pettiness here and say he wants his final $15, bud.
Man, what was his full ticket, man? He has cleaned up in
Too
the
much.
last 6 or 7 years, whatever the hell it is. But yeah, man, I hear that. I just would love to see the look on Johnny Gaudreau's face when he got that news. I mean, he moves out there to go to some softer areas with some
Oh
softer
man.
coaching and be closer to mama. And then the biggest asshole in the league is coming to town to run his show. I can't imagine he's happy about it. I mean, it reminds me of when Randy Carlyle got hired in Toronto when I was there, and there was so many guys that were just like, "You're kidding me," and guys that had played for him before who were like, I need out, I need out," and it's just not a good way to start. And I mean, I know a person personally who was right there with him at the University of Saskatchewan, I think it was. He didn't have a job, and all that stuff came out about his, personality and the way he handles people. And he goes to there to give back to the game and to get back to the roots and coach some college hockey. And I guess he was just the biggest prick there. He didn't do
Shocker.
anything. He
Yeah.
was just there to say he was there. Hey, media, look at me. I'm a darling. See it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's true. I'm giving back. I wouldn't trust that guy as far as I could throw him. I think that you don't get stories and reports like that about you without the majority of it being dead true. And it's interesting for us because we'll get to see how he handles that Columbus team and how they perform under him.
Anything that spices up a random game between Toronto and Columbus in like mid-November, dude, I'm all for.
Seriously.
Because it's coming on like a Friday night. The most highly anticipated games right now going into next season would be a game against Pittsburgh and a game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And you add that to sort of a potential matchup against an Ottawa or Montreal. I like it. I'm just curious from so many levels when it comes to Mike Babcock in Columbus. He loves narratives. He loves the media. I just wonder how he's going to react when there's a no disrespect to Columbus. There's not as many people there as there would be for like a Toronto or even a job in Detroit. How he handles the media. And dude, I would not be shocked if he uses sort of the us against the world mentality when it comes to the media there. I can't wait from that aspect, the PR game to Mike Babcock in Columbus, right?
I'm sure. I wonder if his tone will soften or if he'll be the same razor's edge prick type of guy. But you'd think that he's heard enough about himself and maybe learned a bit or said maybe I need to reevaluate. You don't. He probably thought there's a chance his career in the NHL was completely over. And whether obviously now we know that he did want to come back to the NHL and still had the desire to coach. Money obviously not really being an issue. He made enough of that, so he wants to coach, and you'd think that he wants to leave maybe a legacy that isn't the one that he sits with right now, and maybe soften himself. Maybe he brushes up on the youth of today and what makes them tick. I mean, I do think that at a time he was a good coach and he's got it in him to get the most out of the players. So maybe he's smart enough to look inside and say, I'm going to make some changes and try to make this one work where, maybe my attitude was misguided at one point in time. Maybe the game and the players and society did change on me at one point in time, and I got kind of, caught up in it. So it's interesting. It'd be fun to hear him behind closed doors and what he thinks about it, what he thinks about his reputation right now, because there's no way that he doesn't know that it's fucking terrible.
Dude, Mike Babcock does not give a fuck what people think about him. That's the first
Maybe.
lesson I think we all learn. I'm just, again, from that perspective, and the thing that drives me insane, and call me progressive, Rosie, having worked with me the last year, I'm somewhere in between, but is there nobody else that can do the job? Like the fact that you're going back to the Mike Babcock, well, this guy's been coaching the NHL since November 19th. I remember I was covering the Leafs for Sportsnet at the time. So I had to rush in, do a 3 hour extravaganza on Sheldon Keefe coming in to replace the great almighty Mike Babcock. He's got an '08 Stanley Cup. I get that. 2 Olympic golds. Like he's done everything. But is there nobody else? Is there no fresh blood we can find to coach in the NHL? That's what drives me nuts. It's the same fucking guys recycled year in and year out, man. It's insane to me.
Yeah, and I think that just shows how much the powers that be up above in the brass and the NHL teams value experience. It is just it's known. You know this guy has been there. You know he's seen it. You know that he knows what it takes. You know that he knows what it feels like, what it doesn't feel like. And that's just so valuable to a guy who's like, my ass is on the line. I got to give the reins to somebody. Am I going to give it to little Johnny here coming out of junior? Like, fuck, what if, I'm going to get scrutinized for it? He's not, his relationship with these guys who make $10 million is non-existent. It's different, right? So the value that these GMs and presidents and owners put on experience for their coaches, it just goes to show how high it is. And they bring in a guy like Matt Babcock, with some of the players like Johnny Gaudreau. You just brought him in. You know he's not the most hard-nosed kid in the world. You know he kind of ran away from Sutter, and you're going to bring that guy in. Like, that's kind of ballsy, right? And I imagine there was some conversations about where he wants to take the team and how he wants to coach it. But at the end of the day, they hired him because of his experience.